Okay, so now before we put the Kerdi panel on, you can see we finally got more of the Reflectix insulation in place here. And you can see we also added some more blocking because I like to have more places to screw the panel into. So you can see we added these blocks here as well. So here we're just doing a little dry fitting, and you can see why we like to add this blocking. Whenever I know I'm going to have two sheets joined together, it's always a good idea to have a block there that you can screw them both into. Alright, so now that we're starting to put some of the Schluter panel boards up here, and this is true of just any type of cementitious board or any other panel that you're going to put up here. And the saying goes, you know, with carpentry, when you hear the guys talking about building stud walls and stuff, you'll always hear them talking about, you know, build it true, level, and plumb. Those are the three keywords that they use. And it's the same is true here. So I like to use my carpenter square here as I'm putting the panels up. And I want to make sure that I get a absolutely perfect 90-degree corner here. So here we're going to put this down here. And you can see right in this corner here, I'm like absolutely perfect. It's just, and if you look in the corner here, you should look along here, and you shouldn't see, you know, any gaps. You shouldn't see big gaps where light's seeping through. But I'm going to come up here a little more, right? So right here you can see a little bit, see about 1/8 of an inch. And here you can see a little bit too, that's 1/8 of an inch. Well, you can't have that because you're going to run into problems with your tiling. So what you have to do is you got to make this what we call true level plumb. You have to find a way to let a little bit of this board come back out to meet this square so that we'll have perfect 90-degree walls here. Now you can do it with the wood shims here, or you can do plastic shims. But as you look here, you can see that it might look pretty straight to your eye, but let's put the spirit level up here. And you can see if you look at the bottom panel here, and you focus right there, and you look at it, it's pretty much level there. That looks good. But if you notice, if you start to slide upwards, look right along in here, you might see a little bit of a gap starting to form because, you know, you've got waviness, you've got unevenness. The studs that these panels are attached to have crowns on them. They curve in and out and up and down. That's why you never get perfect walls. And on top of that, the cement block that these studs are attached to, the further you go up towards the ceiling here, it really curves back to the point that it can be off almost 1/2 an inch. And we see this quite a bit with houses. But here you can see now our bubble is no longer in the center here. So what does that mean? Well, how are we going to correct that? That means the level has to come back on the bottom of it about this far, which is about almost 3/8 if you look at the bottom of the level, in order to maintain that. So what do? Well, we can stick shims in here to pull the panel back out a little bit. What I'm going to do is I want to mix some thin set mortar, and I'm going to mix it very, very dry. And we're just going to level it up and make a shim here. We're going to pile some of it onto all of these studs. So we'll have a dynamic leveling type system that we can just kind of mush it down a little bit and adjust it as we need to, and then we won't set our screws in until it's completely dry. So that is how we're going to level this. So you can see here, once we pull the bottom board out a little bit, this board will then, in order to make it all straight and everything, we'll have to come out just a frog here. So we'll put some on here. So you can see the difference here in these studs, because how far back the brick wall was like leaning backward as you go up. So that's what we have to mitigate. And then this little section here, see, also when you're checking your plumb and level with these boards, once they're attached, and nothing means anything till they're all screwed in, by the way. So that's why you're going to put them in, you're going to screw everything in a little bit, and keep playing with them until you get the level right. But, you know, you want to put your level this way. I, you know, go down here too. I want to make sure that this section here is directly over this section. But you can see there's a gap right there too. See, that's about almost 1/4 of an inch. So this panel is going to have to come out. We're going to undo this screw here and stick some mortar behind it there to act as a shim, and we won't screw it in all the way until we get everything perfectly level here and it's all dried and set behind there. Now I should point out to you that the Tile Council of North America, in the handbook, they really don't want you to use mortar as a shim. But I believe that's more on the floor than it is on the wall. Here you're just using it to give a little backing on here. You're not using it as really that much as a load So I think we can get away with it here. And if you're worried about that, you can always use wood or plastic shims. The reason why I'm not going to use wood is because you would have to stick so many in here. And if you fix one, another one falls out. There's just too many unknowns here. So we're going to slap our concrete on every one of these studs here. That way we'll just have a nice leveling bed that we can go in and out, up and down, whatever direction we need to. So that when we're done and we're going like this, it'll all be completely, perfectly, straight up and down, absolutely perfect. And that's the way it has to be. And when we're done, we'll be able to take our carpenter square and we'll put it right back here in the corner, and you won't see this wiggling anymore if we do our job right. Okay? Let's get to work. See what I've done here is I've started to apply some of the thin set mortar here. And in some areas I laid it thick where I know we're going to need more distance, and in some areas I made it a little thinner. And we just kind of applied it to all of the studs here. Now you can see I made it nice and dry so it'll stay in place. And the whole purpose of this is based on the same theory as when you're doing marble tile. And you build up the marble onto your bed of dry packed mud there in order to make it level. So we're going to put our Kerdi panels right on there, and then we'll be able to dynamically adjust it by the depth of the thin set until we get them nice and flat. And then once it sets, we'll screw them in perfectly. Alright, so right here in the middle of the board, if you remembered, we said we were going to have to back it out a little bit. So we've shimmed it up from behind with a little bit of mortar there. And it'll dry like a cement, so it'll dry nice and firm there, and it'll hold it into that position. So now, right now, as it stands, this is perfectly level. And on top of that, if we take our friendly square back out now and take a look, you can see it's absolutely perfectly square. There's no light sneaking through, there's no gaps. If you remember before, it was wiggling by about 1/8 of an inch. So now I'm going to move it up here to the top here, and you'll see the same thing. It's in there just nice and perfect and all the way up against the edge of the panel, whereas if you saw a few minutes ago it was wiggling and we would have had a very crooked tile install, but this right now is just absolutely perfect. And another reason why this is important is if you just kind of look at this seam as it goes up here, how it's nice and straight. Well, you're going to have tiles there, and so you want to make sure you have a nice straight grout line going up the corner there too. Okay, so here we're getting ready to put the second panel up where the niche is going to be. And what I always like to do, if we look right down here, is I always line my boards up so they're absolutely perfectly straight right over each other so that the lines can continue. Because remember, when I set this thing originally, this lower board here, I made sure that this line is like perfectly level here, right? And so by doing that, I can be assured I can use these as great reference lines as I'm tiling. And so I want to continue that all the way up here. And then if you look in the side here, you'll see how the mortar is just kind of sitting there. So we're going to be pushing in and out, and as we add our screws in, and we're not going to screw them all the way, we're just going to make them tacky enough so that we know that it's flat, perfectly flat, straight, level, plumb, and all that stuff. And then when we're done with that, we can screw them in later on once the mortar dries. Alright, so we're kind of checking our level here from like top to bottom here and making sure there's not like any gaps, you know, that way and this way. So it's starting to come along, it's getting nice and flat. And as you add more screws, you have to go back and check, because if you screw in over here, it might undo something over here. Now, if you look at from here at the very bottom all the way up, you can see it's nice and vertical. You look at the bubble there. But as we get up towards the top, look what happens. See, there's that little bit of a gap right there. So we're going to have to maybe shim up a little more even behind the panel right there near the top. And this happens quite a bit with concrete block walls. They always get real inaccurate near the top, and they lean back. It's common to see that. My friend's house, we had this. It was leaning back a ½ inch up at the top of his brick wall. It was terrible. So all we have to do is just loosen this a little more, and we'll shim up behind it and stick a little more thin set back in there and let it dry at that angle. That way we'll know our board's going to be nice and straight. And then if we bring it over here and see what we've got, it's looking pretty good here too, nice and straight. And over here, I think it was actually quite textbook perfect right there. So let's continue on. Okay, so we're putting the little pieces here for the very top, and you can see it right here as I push the piece in. It's almost like tiling. You'll see it kind of ooze out as it finds its true front level there to be straight. You want to make sure you don't feel any lippage from one panel to the next. Then I'm going to put the upper right panel in here and do the same thing there. Just kind of mash it down into the thin set there. And we'll leave these like this to dry, and once they dry, we'll go ahead and put our screws through them there. I'll put them in now just to get them in and make sure that they're in case you don't want to be combating the dry mortar later on, but we won't tighten them down. So what I'm going to do now is just get my level out here and check from the bottom panel to the middle panel to the top panel, so you can see this one's got to come out a little bit too. So we're going to have to shim this one a little more. We may have to stick a little more mortar in there, and maybe even an actual shim too, to get that thickness to match. And then once it does, and once it dries, we can screw through to it. So here we are. We can you can see just how much distance we'll need, and we might even need more than this. Yeah, so we're going to put a little bit more thin set mortar on there and then ooze it down. So here we are the next morning, and you can see we've come in and all the mortar is dry now. You can see right here just how much we had to stick in front of this stud here. We had to build it up about almost 3/8 of an inch. And you'll see it tapers down to a minuscule amount right here, but just goes to show you that last 1.5 feet, sometimes how the whole brick wall can lean back enough as it goes up. But at least now this entire panel wall here, made out of the Schluter Kerdi Boards, is now completely, totally vertical. So now we can go and tighten down our screws. And then I wanted to show you something over here at the windowsill. So this is just utterly ridiculous here. This is something really dumb that the builder did when they built this house. So they had built this well right here in front of the window, and the way they did it was they had formed a shelf, the windowsill here made out of tiles, and it was at a steep angle like this. It was just so ridiculous. I'm sure it's functional and it drains water if any water lands on it, but you could never put any of your your shampoo bottles on there. And problem with this is there was nowhere for the homeowner to put their shampoo. It was like the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Unbelievably steep. So what we're going to do is we're going to thin set down some of the Kerdi panels. We have to do one layer, then thin set down a second layer, and then a third layer. Very similar to how they do the benches with Kerdi. And then we'll just shave the extra right off of here. So this will build the level up here. And then when we go to tile later on, we're going to put an entire single piece of marble on the sill. And look, we're going to finish putting up all the rest of our screws on there, and we need plenty more screws here on the field of the wall here. And then after that, we're going to attach all of our little Kerdi squares, the little to cover up all of the screws here. And then we'll put Kerdi band going down the seams here, down the corners, to make everything waterproof before we can tile. Well, here we are the next morning after we're almost finished with all of the Kerdi band and the waterproofing and stuff. So you can see what we did here is over each one of the screws and washers you have to put a little piece of Kerdi band, and you cement it down with the mortar, and we got almost done. And then you can see wherever we had seams we used the Kerdi band. There's some here, there's some here. We go all the way up the corners, all the way up to the ceiling there. And then we're going to have to get some and put some here on this corner here. And we've preformed them here. We'll take a little piece of it and we kind of crease it to make the corners right here, these outside corners, see? So we just have that to finish today. So what you're looking at now is about 2 hours of work between two people. It gets quite messy. There's a lot of cleanup and there's time that it takes to mix the mortar as well. And then what we're going to do here, and let me show you this piece. This is the mixing valve gasket cover here. And this will go here. And what we're going to do is to match it to this wider opening here, we're going to have to cut some of this around here. And it's a great idea to always leave a big space in there in case plumbers have to get in there in the future to put in a new mixing valve for you. And in fact, a lot of people make this mistake. And I was helping a friend out a few months ago where the builder left even less space than what you see here, and we couldn't even get the cartridge out to change the cartridge for the guy. We had to chisel the tile around it, which is dangerous because you can break the tile. So it's really foolish when people tile all the way up to the thing here. You got to leave a nice big opening like that. That's why this piece is designed like that. That's how much space you're supposed to have. And then we're going to use this piece here, which goes over the pipes. You slip it over and it fits nice and down there. It fits nice and snug over the pipe, and we'll cement that in place. And another one will also go up here for the shower head pipe as well. And once we finish that, we'll be ready to go ahead and start tiling. Okay, also wanted to show you here, this was the big plastic niche that we stuck in here. And the way the manufacturer wants you to do it is to, once you get it screwed into place, they want you to trowel out the thin set to flare it out, kind of like if you were drywalling to a corner on the drywall. And that just gets it kind of nice and even. And then we're going to come by with our scraper and scrape off all of the little boogers and pieces that stick out and try to get rid of all of the crumbs. And also the manufacturer of this, because it's plastic, wants you to use a polymer modified thin set, which is luckily what we're going to be using here. And they're so adamant about it that they even have this warning sticker telling you about it. And they want you to wait 24 hours for it to dry when you put the tiles on here before you grout, because they want to make sure that it can really cure, because you're up against an impervious type material here, and it won't cure enough, so you really got to wait a day or so before you can add your grout to that. Then lastly, along these windows here, before we add any more Kerdi band or anything, we're going to get some door and window silicone caulk, and we're going to caulk all of these gaps here. This is just extra insurance on top of our Kerdi waterproofing system, but we're going to caulk all the way around the windows here and get all that done. And then same at the bottom of the tub up in this area here, we're going to caulk all along, all the way around the bottom of these Kerdi boards here.